I'm Cara from Bianca Reads, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Nevernight Chronicles, or at least the first two books that are out by J. Kristoff. So there's two books so far out in this series, Nevernight, which is the first one, obviously, and Godsgrave. Godsgrave came out a couple of months ago. I've recently read both of them. I did marathon them, which is kind of a thing for me. I don't normally marathon books at all. I normally keep the series spaced apart a bit, because if I stay too long in one world I get a bit restless and bored. But I finished Nevernight and immediately had to start Godsgrave, even though I planned for it to be like 6 months down the track, which does say a lot about how good I found this book. I have heard some very mixed opinions from people about this series. Some people it's very divisive. Some people love it or they hate it. Obviously, I loved it. The basic plot is that we follow this girl Mia, whose family were killed in an uprising. They were trying to reinstall a king-like system into a republic, and were hanged as traitors, or her father was hanged as a traitor. And she's seeking revenge, and it's set in this fantasy world where there's 3 suns and their orbit kind of overlaps. So only once every, I think, 2.5 years is there an actual period of night where it's dark. The rest of the time it's never night, or like a period of sleep, but it's still light outside. And so the world, to start off with, is already very interesting. And then Mia as a character is really interesting. She's got a lot of complexities. She's a creature they call I think she's a darkling? No, it's not a darkling. It's, is it a darkling? Correct me if I'm wrong, but she's essentially a creature that has a shadow, an extra shadow, which for her takes the form of this cat, which she calls Mr. Kindly, a cat of shadows, and she kind of has some powers associated with that. So she's a very interesting character because she has this this shadow cat going on that gives her some kind of, distinguishes her in some way from the rest of the society, though it's kind of kept secret. And she also, although she is in training to be an assassin to get revenge for her father, which is the kind of premise of the book, she also has a very strong heart and isn't really what you would call assassin material. And those conflicting tensions in her character are really, really interesting to read about. And I think the bit I find most interesting about these books is their narrative voice and the narrative style. So you're following a narrator, I guess, who in the main body of the text stays very third person, but has these footnotes where comments about the world are interjected, and I loved those. There was so much sass in the footnotes that I lived for them. They were so, so good. Especially in the first book, where it was a large contributor to the world building. In the second book, obviously, you understand the world a bit better, so that's less of a factor, but still really, really good. And really, really sassy. Mia herself is really sassy as well, so great. One criticism I've heard of this series is that the metaphors can be really tied down and hard to understand. Personally, I didn't find that, but I enjoy a good rambling, complicated metaphor where they don't kind of quite work. But they kind of give that feeling without having a very strong, I don't know, they're not the kind of familiar metaphors you're used to, but they resonated with me really well. I've heard some people say that they just couldn't read it because they weren't understanding the metaphor. They didn't really get what was going on. I personally never had a problem and really enjoyed those. But I guess that depends on the history of reading and the style of things you've read before, perhaps, because I loved that. So essentially I gave both books 5 stars. I think I may have given the second book 4.5, but overall loved them. I also really, really, really loved the endings. So a little bit of a spoiler here. So I'll put a little warning here and then skip ahead to when the warning disappears. So essentially, you follow the plot through of this assassin school in the first book, and Mia is there training to be an assassin so she can go avenge her father. And there's all this internal plot struggle going on at the school. And then you hit the last 30 pages and bam, plot twist, everything's gone to shit, people are dying, people are betraying people, and it's all really complicated, and she's got to turn around and save the day. And that kind of happens in that last 30 pages, I guess. Not even. It's probably more like 50 pages. It's a decent enough chunk, but it is very much the end of the book, which maybe a criticism some people have, that fast-paced ending kind of hits you very quickly. But the plot twist made sense to me. Everything fell into place really well. I didn't go, that came out of nowhere. It made a lot of sense. And that middle, that world building, character building, plot building middle was fun and enjoyable to read. So I had no problems at all with that. In the second book, trying to avoid spoilers for the first book, we follow Mia as, now that she's become an assassin, she's found out that the Assassins organization is not actually that great and may have in fact been involved in her father's death, through the consul, who's like the leader of the world, of their community, and the consul is the one she's trying to kill to revenge her father. So she finds out that this organization she thought she was using as a tool to get there is in fact kind of on his side and is keeping her from him. So she kind of rebels and fights against them. And again, the build perhaps in the middle was a little slower for me because it was very much a different adventure. She sells herself into slavery to get this chance to kill the consul and the religious leader, who were the two most involved people that she wanted to kill, because of circumstances that are too complicated to explain, in which the religious leader is almost impossible for her to kill in most circumstances. So she has to win this slave competition to be able to kill these people, but obviously has to sell herself into slavery and build her way up to get there. So the main plot is that. And then the plot twist happens, again at the end of the second book, and mind blown. I love these plot twists. They're so good, they feel so natural, they fit in so well, but they change everything. And they're really, really good. Okay, back to the non-spoilery section. So obviously most of what I feel about the second book, I talked in that spoilery section only because the spoilers, the second book obviously is going to spoil the first book. This is a series review. But overall, my key points for the first book remain the same for the second book. So they are very similar in structure and pattern. So my comments on the first book do apply to the second. Overall, as I'm sure you're aware, I love this series. I would highly recommend it if you're a fan of fantasy. If fantasy is not your cup of tea, I'd maybe stray away, because I have found that, or I have noticed that some people do find the metaphor and the complicatedness of the storytelling to be difficult, but I had no problem with it, and I love fantasy. So I guess I'm tying that to that. That's the only thing I can think of that would make a big difference in your understanding of that kind of narrative style. So yes, I would definitely recommend these books. As you can tell, I currently don't have them in my hands because I recommended them to my mother and she took my copies. So they're currently with her. I also am so anticipating the third book. I believe it's still like a year away. I don't know how I'm going to cope because the plot twist at the end of book 2 was intense. But at least I know that J. Kristoff has given us a kind of refresher. I don't have to go back and reread, because at the start of the second book he gave a list of characters and where they were kind of all at and the kind of plot information from the first book. Which, yes, please do this more. I love it when books do that. So I'm awful at remembering what happened in the previous book, but obviously I get bored if I marathon things. So I'm kind of stuck. So yes, please do this more, fantasy writers and any writers in general actually. Give me a rundown of the previous book in a section I can skip if I want to. Yes. So that was my review for Nevernight and Godsgrave by J. Kristoff. I hope you enjoyed. I'm still getting into the flow of reviews, so hopefully I'll get better as I progress, because I intend to be reviewing books a lot more in the coming year. If you have any recommendations for the kinds of things you'd like me to include in a review, please comment down below and let me know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon with another video. I can't remember when this is going up, so Monday, Wednesday or Friday. I'll see you soon with another video. Thank you. Bye.